Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dhanavad pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam.
All good. তুষ্ট চৈতন্য প্রভু,
Hare Krishna.
আপনি ওই ভক্তি শাস্ত্রীর সব শ্লোকাগুলো একসঙ্গে একটা কম্পাইল করেছিলেন না, অল দ্য 4 বুকস? ওর ই কপিটা আমাকে একটু ইমেল করে দেবেন?
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে।
তো আমি এদের নতুন ব্যাচকে দিয়ে দেবো।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে।
কন্ট্রিবিউশন বাই তুষ্ট চৈতন্য প্রভু।
আরে হরে কৃষ্ণ।
হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভুজি, নমস্কার প্রভু।
হরে কৃষ্ণ প্রভুজি, দণ্ডবত প্রণাম।
কেমন আছেন?
হ্যাঁ আছি, ভালোই আছি, সব ঠিক আছে।
আপনার মাতাজিকে রোজ সকালে আমরা দেখছি একদম রেগুলারলি শ্লোকা পড়ছেন, দারুণ লাগছে।
ঠিক আছে প্রভুজি, চেষ্টা।
আনন্দিনী মাতাজি, ফ্যান্টাস্টিক।
চেষ্টা করছি আমরা।
ভালো ভালো, চলো আমরা তাহলে শুরু করে দিই।
Hare Krishna.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava
Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha
Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana
Brajajana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha
Madhava
Kunja Bihari Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama
Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare
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 Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jaya Gornitai 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 Jaya Gornitai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya 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 Gurudev Gurudev Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Yogishtapad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Rashtottara Sata Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Ramachandra Das Thakur Ki Jai Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Sri Radha Giridhari Bhagavan Ki Jai
Jai
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maiya Ki Jai
Jai
Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada All glories to Srila Guru Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Deva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Jayam Muditaye
भगवती रत्नमस्तके भक्ति
Puranamalam Yadvaishnavadam Priyam Yasmin Paraham Yamekam Naishkar Vyama Vishnu Dakshin Vansu Pathanti Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai
Om Namo Bhagavate
Satyam param dhimahi Satyam param dhimahi Satyam param dhimahi
Arma Prodhakaitu Mantra Paramo Nirman Saranam Edyam
वास्तवम्
vastavastram
अत्र वक्तृषिवर्धम्
Bhagavate
महामुनिकृते ईश्वरः सद्यो हृदि अवरुध्यते
So last time we finished till 8.
No, 8 will start.
It will start.
Yeah.
7. So essentially we finished the first part. Actually there are the first part is 1 to 7 and there are 2 subsections in that.
Yeah.
So we read in the first section is from 1 to 4. We heard how Narad Muni, after he comes, he glorifies Vyasadeva. Genuine glorification. And then the next part from 5, 6, 7 talks about how Vyasadeva, as soon as he sees his guru, he accepts or he confides in his guru his dissatisfaction. The reason why Narad Muni has appeared. So that concludes this section, 7. Then from 8 again, Narad Muni now starts giving the solution. And we discussed last time how it's the same pattern of the Guru and Shishya. This is a good example of how we need to make inquiries, how we need to interact. And when it is also another proof in Bhagavatam right now, we are doing Dhruva Maharaj Katha. So there also we see that as soon as Dhruva Maharaj was very enthusiastic and determined, somehow or the other Narad Muni appears to test him and to obviously grant him the ultimate boon of devotional service, apart from initiating it formally. So here also, Narad Muni, he comes as soon as Vyasadeva feels the genuine helplessness in his dissatisfaction. And then there is this conversation where he glorifies, and then Vyasadeva, he confidentially expresses his dissatisfaction and waits for Narad Muni to actually give him the solution. So as soon as Narad Muni gives the solution, he's ready to act. Now, why is this required? Many times we feel or we find that we make inquiries, but we are not ready to listen and accept them. What do you mean by accept? Accept meaning when we get the right advice from senior Vaishnavas, especially Guru, we should accept it straight away. Accept means we should immediately, without any reservation, without any concern, without any doubt, we should act on it immediately to the best of our ability. So that is called to accept. So if we are not ready to accept, the Guru will also not be ready to give you the solution, because the Guru can read the mind of the disciple. Guru knows, he might have many disciples, but Guru knows that if I tell this disciple what will be his consciousness and what will be the consciousness of some other disciple. So he can discriminate because of his connection to Krishna, to the transcendence, he can discriminate. Of course, he is giving each disciple what is best for them. So sometimes we feel, and Krishna, we also accuse Krishna sometimes of being partial, and that's the whole starting point of Canto 7 of Yudhishthira Maharaj asking that how can Lord be partial? Is he partial or not? And the whole Canto 7 starts with that. So similarly, sometimes we feel that, oh, why is Guru responding differently to my god brother and me? Or sometimes, why is this senior devotee is favoring that person and me? So we have this because of our mental concoction and material conditioning, we think like that. But actually, a devotee at that level in real purified consciousness can never be partial, because Krishna is never partial. but they give the solution in a tailor-made way for the devotee in the front to accept easily and to apply. Because ultimately what is the purpose of a devotee is to help others take to this process, right? And for others to take to this process, there are so many challenges, difficulties, mental concoctions, peer pressure, so many problems. So the real devotee is somebody who can understand those problems by discussion, guhyam akhyati prachyati, and then based on that condition, he gives them the process towards achieving the same goal. So the goal and the process is the same, but the way it is to be applied is a bit different in different circumstances. So we should never have any feeling of discrimination, or we should never be judgmental about interaction between a senior devotee and and his discrimination, so-called, that we perceive between somebody else and us. So this aspect is proved very nicely here. So from text 8, Narad Muni now starts, as I said, discussing the solution. How Vyasadeva can get out of his this feeling of dissatisfaction. So we'll do text 8. Shri Narada Vacha Avatānuda Prayam
Yasho Bhagavato Mano
Enaivasav
Shunate Shabdai
Manye Darshanam.
Sri Narad said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless."
So what is it? You have, what is a problem? Like it's a doctor, right? The doctor will ask you so many questions. Why? Not to confuse you, not because he doesn't like you, but he wants to find the actual problem.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, see, what happens is, we sometimes say this is a problem, but actually the problem is something else. But we don't say it because we are not sure whether we'll be taken correctly or whether it's right to say that. So after discussing everything, now Narad has diagnosed. He asked the questions, he has diagnosed, although he knew from before, but he diagnosed based on the interaction he had with Vyasadeva. And now he's giving, antibiotics. No small medicines, antibiotics is giving. So what is that? He comes straight to the point.
Yeah.
He said, you actually have not broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead, from whom everything has come. You have not actually glorified him. So that is the first problem. Why? Because he had already said in the past, right, that you've done so many things. You've written all Veds, Purans, you've taught people how to engage in better sense gratification. So many things you have done. So this is also another way to, when we have to give good feedback. I would say people use the word criticism, but actually it is good constructive feedback. So there is a way of giving feedback. Sometimes our intent may be to give good feedback, but if we don't follow the process, it can become problem. Haven't you experienced? Sometimes, your friend says, oh, how was my kirtan, or how was my class, or, how was my decoration? How was my arti? And then because you're very close to that person, you'd say, yeah, you did okay, but that one was not right. That was very bad. Now you must have said it in a very, non-critical way, or you didn't mean enviousness or anything. But because you didn't follow the process, the other person gets agitated. How come he's criticizing me like this? So there is a process. And what is the process? First, talk about the good things. Whenever we give feedback, we should always first talk about the good, genuine good things. Don't don't, if it is not good, don't artificially say it is good. We should be honest. But everybody has something good. In any activity that we do, there will always be some good things. Problem is sometimes we are not able to actually locate it, or we don't have the eyes to see it. So we have to develop the eyes like Shivji, Lord Shiva, who can see good in the filthiest of places, who can see good in the worst of living entities. So we have to see what is good. We have to first say that, first mention that. And then we should slowly, and depending on the mindset of that person, we have to give critical feedback. So this is Narad Muni's critical feedback. That you have not, first is, he said, you have not broadcast the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because that philosophy which does not satisfy Rishi Kena Rishi Kesha, that which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered
Worthless.
worthless. Darshanam khilam, inferior. It is useless. Now, that the fact that if it does not satisfy the senses of the Lord is worthless is known to Vyasadeva. Already, it is not new information, but he is presenting it in such a way that you already know this. This is one of the problems. So here in the purport, Prabhupada writes that in the third line, such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literatures ending with Vedanta philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. So sometimes people ask, Veda is also from Krishna, Gita is also Krishna. Why you don't read Vedas and why only you read Bhagavad Gita? When preaching, people ask this question. So here Prabhupada has given the answer. Why? Then he writes the next part. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. Very important statement. What does it mean? It may be a transcendental matter, meaning it may be something to do from the Vedas, right? But if it does not glorify the Lord, or if it does not lead to glorification of the Lord, it will not be attractive. Because the Lord is all attractive. So the descriptions and glorifications of the Lord, naturally being absolute, will also be attractive. So it will be attractive to the person who's reading it, and that person will start relishing it. And when somebody relishes something, he makes it attractive for the people around them. Right? Sometimes, people, they get amazed that when people read, in my childhood days, there used to be this magazine called Filmfare and Stardust, all about, rubbish Bollywood movie stars and their movies and their personal lives. And people used to pay so much money to buy them. Sorry, did somebody say something? People used to buy them, read them, and in 1 or 2 days, it used to be in the bin. And it was not cheap that days. Those days, they were quite expensive. But people used to read them. And sometimes when people could not afford, they used to circulate one magazine going to the other as if it is some really, important book to read. And then the third day it's in the bin. And as soon as it is in the bin, it is also out of the mind. But people read I think it used to be weekly or fortnightly, I don't remember. But people used to wait. After 3 days, they'll wait for the next copy. Okay, what is next? What happened to that person? What happened to him? Sometimes it used to be serial stories, So like that, people are interested. They're attracted. But this attraction is temporary. This attraction is based on certain things that they find different from their own lives. Something different. But here, Prabhupada is saying that even though something may be different from your own life, and even though it may be related to the Vedas, it will still not be attractive. And only a devotee can understand this statement. Because now when we start reading Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita and we sit with the book and we read, especially when we have to give class, especially when you have to prepare, yeah, whether it's exam or assignment or now class, the reading becomes so intense that people who, apart from our family, who already know that, this is what we are doing, but when friends come and they see us with this Bhagavatam, they think, what's wrong? Wow, what is so engrossing in this book that this person is with? Every time I go to his house, he's with the book. Our Maharaj was known for being a bookworm of Bhagavatam. He says that you should be the worm in the book. The bookworms, they always stay in the book. You throw them away, they'll still come into the book and they'll be in the book. So Maharaj used to say that I want to be like that worm in Bhagavatam, connected. And if you want to really make your life successful, you should also become a bookworm. So he was known for always being with Bhagavatam. So there is a devotee who Maharaj was very close with. I don't know, maybe some of you would have heard this Prabhuji from the Baroda temple. He was a temple president. Yashomati Nandan Prabhu. So he is a disciple of Prabhupada, and he was very impressed with Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So when Guru Maharaj, he came to India, he met Yashomati Nandan Prabhu, and they took him around, and finally he's the one instrumental in giving that land in Dwarka and Rajkot, where this nice big temple is now standing, and worship of Radha Nil Madhav is going on. And he was very impressed, and people said that whenever you meet this sannyasi, he's always with Bhagavatam, any time of the day. So whenever he used to go to meet him, he used to always let him know that I'm coming. So whenever he used to go, he used to see he's with Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavatam. So he'll finish reading, close it, then he'll come and talk. So he decided, whenever I go and see him, I always tell him beforehand I'm coming. So maybe because I'm coming, he's with Bhagavatam. So now I will go and meet him, and without telling him, and at an odd time, like afternoon, when you expect somebody to be napping, especially at an elderly age. So he deliberately, at about 2:30 in the afternoon one day, weekday, when there's no activity, no festival, nothing, everybody's resting, he went, and without knocking, he just barged into the room, Maharaj's room. And he saw Maharaj was in his table and he was reading Bhagavatam. And he was so apologetic. He was so embarrassed. Because he just barged in. He didn't even knock, like suddenly. So he said, I'm so sorry I've come like this. And he was very honest. So he said that actually I've been hearing from everybody that you are always with Bhagavatam. So I just wanted to test. And I'm so sorry, please don't take offense. Maharaj laughed and said, that's okay. That's how what it is. This is our real business. So the point is that being with this Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita requires that taste. And that taste gives us that bliss. And people, because they do not experience the taste and bliss in other books, in any other literature, including Vedic study, they are surprised how come somebody can be with these books continuously or for so long. But when they see the taste and when they see the attraction, they also feel attracted. Just like that. So this is the important point Prabhupada is making, that unless the literature glorifies the Lord, it will never be attractive. And then in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes that the compiler of Vedanta Darshan is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled. Although he is the author. Meaning, have you heard somebody who has written a nice book? And after writing the nice book, he gets the praises and glorification of everybody around him, and he's still dissatisfied. Oh my God, maybe, it's not there. Have you heard anybody like that? No. They'll be on the top of the cloud, Oh, I've written a book, so nice, and everybody's glorified me. I'm the best. And here the author is feeling troubled. Prabhupada writes. So then he says, so what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? So if Vyasadeva did not get any satisfaction, how can others who have expanded on that get satisfaction? And how can the reader of those expansions get satisfaction? So we touched upon it last time also. So this is the point. And then Prabhupada concludes that purport by saying, herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the same author. This part is very important. In spite of compiling Vedanta Sutra, he had to compile Bhagavatam. Why? Because something was troubling him. So why should somebody spend time reading Vedanta Sutra, and also Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam? Better come to Bhagavatam directly, which is the mature fruit of all this essence. So this is something we should have a very clear understanding, that when we read Bhagavatam, when we understand Bhagavatam, it means we have understood every scripture. Everything in the Vedas is there over here. Nothing else is required separately. Then he emphasizes this again. Yatha dharmadayas muni varyadukirtitaha na tatha vasudevasya mahima.
Although great says, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva.
Because he said in the first that you didn't glorify the Lord and not satisfied his senses. Somebody might question that, but the Vedas have got the four Purusharthas. Which are the four Purusharthas?
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. That's all people know, and that's what people want. Right? In fact, nowadays people don't want dharma also. What do they want?
Artha and Kama.
They want artha so that they can enjoy kama. Moksha also they're not interested. So they're not interested in the front. They're not interested in the end. They are interested in the middle. Only middle two I want. I don't want Karela. I don't want Rasgulla.
Only spicy food.
Only spicy food. Chatpata. So this is, it's a crude example again, but this is the problem of the society today. But Prabhupada is saying, or Vyasadeva here is saying that, Narad Muni, that although all the four are there, still they are useless. So can you imagine in today's context where although all four are there, people are focused on only two? That's all they want. So how can they be happy? Are you understanding? So even if you want all the four, you will be unhappy. Even if you aspire for all the four, you will be unhappy. What to talk about aspiring only for two of the four, you'll be even more unhappy. And people are expecting to be peaceful, happy, satisfied. It is not possible. Here Prabhupada writes that the prompt diagnosis of Narad is once declared. So this is like the perfect doctor. The root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of Puranas. Why did he do that? Why did he deliberately avoid Prabhupada writes? What do you reckon? Why did he compile this Vedas? For the welfare of people, right? Vedas was written, compiled rather. Ved, Puran, Itihas, Upanishads, they were all compiled. Why? For the welfare of people.
The people in general.
Yes. So how will people get the benefit if they follow dharma? Dharma is what? Rules and regulations. If they follow rules and regulations, then they will get artha. They will get some opulence. If they have artha, the natural propensity of a conditioned soul is to enjoy. So with that artha, they can have some sense gratification. But that also has to be done under dharma, as per dharma, not as per whatever you feel like. So this artha and kama has to be as per dharma. That's why the dharma is very important. First, artha is not first, dharma is first. Because if you don't have dharma, your artha will be misused. Then your kama will be purely speculative sense gratification. And you will never move towards moksha. Ever. So if you don't have dharma, then there is no question of moksha. So Vyasadeva, he knew what is the propensity of the conditioned soul to enjoy. That's why we are here in the first place, na Baba. If we didn't have the propensity, desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, we would not have been here only in the material world. So why did Vyasadeva give this? So that the living entities can fulfill their desires under the rules and regulations, so that ultimately, slowly, they'll move towards liberation. And eventually, they will come to the process of bhakti, and eventually they'll get out of this material world. So it is not that he knew it, but he deliberately didn't do it because he didn't want it. No. You have to understand this very, very correct. Because see, Vyasadeva is not an ordinary person. He is Krishna's literary incarnation only. So we have to understand his thought process, or what he had in mind for the welfare. So he systematically gave the 4 processes that anybody can follow. Anybody. Because he focused on the ease of the process, bhakti became a bit low priority. Because let's face it, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanaman Mam Prapadyate. Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Bhakti is not for everybody. It is there for everybody, but everybody cannot take to it directly. So if they cannot take to it, why should they suffer? So that's why they have been given these 4 stages by which slowly you come to the stage where you develop detachment from artha and kama. Because you're fed up. You've enjoyed, you're fed up. And you come to moksha. Now what happens? People, they don't get fed up on their own. Krishna has to create some mechanism in which they are forced to get fed up.
COVID.
Corona.
Well, that is there, but even before Corona, if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but if you think about it, people work so hard from the time they finish their education just to earn money. The only sole goal in their life is to earn money. Why? Because they want to buy a big house. They want to have a beautiful wife. They want to have great children. The children should be educated only in Harvard or Cambridge. And they should have a house that should only be in a posh area, a car that everybody looks and swoons and falls down, beautiful wife that everybody wants to possess, neighbors envy, owners pride, those kind of, this is what society is being, I mean, am I saying it wrong?
No, it's the correct one.
Yeah.
This is what is going on, isn't it? And if somebody achieves these things, they feel, I'm successful. I'm the best. They don't have it, I have it. This is what people are moving. So to achieve more money to enjoy more than you should, Atyahara and Prayas will be there, right? And when you do Atyahara and Prayas, what happens? You lose your sleep, you lose your health, right? You lose your hair, you lose your blood pressure. So by the time, say you reach 30 or 40, nowadays, God knows, even 30 maybe, he's worked so hard, he doesn't sleep at night.
He become cancerous.
Yes, by the time he's got a lot of money in a big house, doctor tells him, sorry, now you've got blood pressure and you've got cancer. Now you tell me, a person at that age, when he is in an age where he has to enjoy, he's forced by the doctor to not enjoy. Now, is that something nice? He's got the money to enjoy. He's got the body to enjoy. He's got the mind to enjoy. But the physicality is, he can't. And if he tries to enjoy forcefully, he is only inviting death earlier than it should come. Now, what choice does he have? You tell me. Still, there are some stubborn people who will say, oh, kal kisne dekha hai? Who's seen tomorrow? Just eat, be merry and die. They don't say die because they don't think about death. But we know what they are happening. So they are being forced to renounce. And that's why our Varnashram system is so systematic and so scientific that after a certain age, you voluntarily give up. Why? Because if you follow the rules and regulations, automatically you would have developed detachment slowly. I mean, think about ourselves, right? We were also attached to many things. And forget Krishna consciousness. As we grow, as we mature, as we experience, we grow old, our detachment becomes more, or our detachment is more or less, generally.
More.
Detachment is more because you realize, well, what's going to happen? You're going to get old, it's going to go away. Without Krishna consciousness, even normal people, I mean, sane people. With Krishna consciousness, we realize that, hey, come on, what will, even if I have this body that I will maintain and make it healthy, keep healthy, at the end I still have to die, na? So if the goal is just to remain healthy, what's the point? But now we have got a higher goal. I have to remain healthy. Why? Because my goal is not to remain healthy. My goal is to serve Krishna and ultimately get out of this problematic situation that I've been put into because of my desires. We've got a higher purpose. So the detachment just intensifies. And that's why when reverses happen, a devotee is much likely to be equipoised than people who don't have this knowledge. We see that, especially in COVID, we've seen that. So the whole idea is he emphasized on these four things so that people can slowly move towards ultimate goal. But he did not emphasize the ultimate process in a way that he should have. Right? It's like saying that, the most important part, because you're so considerate that they may not take to it, you have emphasized so much on the things that are before that. I know, it's like supposing writing an essay, the essay, there's a theme, and that theme is very complex, and you've got 400 words. And so you spend 350 words to describe what happens before you come to that theme, and in the theme you've got 50 words. And in that you have to conclude also. So what happens? The theme becomes very
thin.
Yeah. And then when you read your own essay at the end, you think, my God, where is the theme? I'm not feeling happy. Is it not a good example? It happened. Right? So this is exactly how Vyasadeva was thinking. And that's why. So it's not that he did something wrong, but he did not emphasize something because of his concern for the other living entities, which he realized later. Right? So you have to understand that in the right perspective. So that's why Prabhupada says that he deliberately avoided it because his focus was on the welfare. Then Prabhupada says that these 4 items are by far inferior to the engagement of devotional service to the Lord. Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference. So he knew this. But again, as I said, this is what actually happened. So, after the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, after liberation means moksha, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, etc. One is engaged in pure devotional service. So he compiled all the Vedas, 350 words gone.
Mm.
When it came to talk about devotional service, only 50 words remaining. So dissatisfaction. So after one is engaged pure. This is called stage of self-realization or Brahma Bhuta platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Na shochati na karshati.
Mm.
After attainment of the Brahma Bhuta stage, one is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of transcendental bliss. So this is a very important point. When we are engaging in bhakti, do we feel some satisfaction? There's a difference between happiness and satisfaction. Right? Satisfaction is something that you cannot
Okay.
derive from external things. Satisfaction has to come from within. And likewise, happiness also has to come from within. Others might say this, say that. That may facilitate a little bit. But the feeling of satisfaction has to come from within. And Prabhupada writes that if we feel satisfaction, that means it is the beginning of our bliss. Bliss. So when we are engaged in devotional service, whether at home, in the temple, service, whatever it is, are we experiencing some satisfaction? If we are, then we are doing things properly and we should intensify. If we are not experiencing satisfaction, then there is a serious problem. And we need to talk to a senior devotee ASAP.
Prabhu,
Yes.
we can judge ourselves in the other way. If we, whatever we are doing regularly, if we don't do what we feel,
Yeah. So
means we are in the devotee association, we are studying, we are worshipping the Lord, but apart from when we are going somewhere, we are all means away from all these things. What time that we feel, that we can, judge ourselves how we means we like and how we get the satisfaction when we do.
So you're talking about when you're not engaged in actual bhakti services, you're doing other things.
No, just I'm telling, we are doing all these things,
Uh,
but somehow we cannot do. So that's that mentality will tell how satisfied we were there when we are doing, how enjoying we were that time when we are doing all these things.
so
The other way around, I'm telling.
Yeah. So the impressions that you had when you engaged in bhakti and the bliss you got.
Yeah. But
The
when we
difference.
cannot do, anyhow, or some circumstances come, just like we cannot go to the temple, how we are feeling inside,
Hankering.
Anxiety.
That's it.
That's
That we can
anxiety.
judge ourselves that, how we want to do.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. This hankering is good hankering.
And Prabhuji,
Yes.
anything we do for Krishna, it's not going to be enough. So we are never satisfied.
Correct.
We could have always done much better. That's what we feel.
Correct.
So is there a bliss or is there a happiness?
Very nice question.
Spiritual anxiety.
Yes, very nice question. Yeah. So this one, Prabhupada said it is a beginning of bliss, satisfaction. And you have a very good point, and that's something that we should always keep in mind, that satisfaction is of 2 types. One is a feeling of satisfaction is there with the expectation that I can do better. And one satisfaction is that oh, I've done it, I've achieved it, there's nothing more to do. It's fantastic. Right. So the first category is good. Second category is dangerous.
Mm.
And usually second category, only egoistic, envious people will have that.
Mm.
And actually it is not satisfaction. They say it is satisfaction, but it is something else.
Yeah.
Right. So real satisfaction means that I feel good. Something inside me feels good just by doing it. Doesn't matter what is the result. Just by doing this activity, I feel good. Just by going to the temple, taking darshan, I feel good. It doesn't matter whether, I have expectation. If I have expectation of other things, then I'm not satisfied. If you see, satisfaction is inversely proportional to expectation. If you think about it, expectation. Now, in expectation, we can say, okay, it's a material expectation or transcendental expectation. But expectation is expectation. Is it good or bad? Even transcendental expectation, is it good or bad?
Good.
Like
It's
transcendental expectation, meaning if I go, I hope I get the, I was late for Aarti, but I hope somebody comes and shows me the lamp.
Mm.
Or I hope I went late for Sunday feast, I hope I get prasad. So somebody might say transcendental, it is transcendental. But is it good or is it bad expectation?
Bad.
Bad?
No.
Bad, good. Okay, two people have said one good, one bad.
Duality. Some.
Yeah, I'm talking about purely expectation.
Expectation is not good, I think. We should not expect.
Okay, what about others? What do you think? Please.
Yeah, expectation should not be there.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3 have said expectation. Even transcendental so-called expectation should not be there. Okay. What else? Others? Anybody else? Other disagreements?
Prabhuji, transcendental expectation we should have.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we become goalless.
Okay. So when you say expectation in the sense, can you give an example?
I can give Prabhuji, or Abhash Prabhu, you want to give? Okay. So now, just I hope
You
Krishna
can continue.
don't mind, but he's doing now cooking every Sunday, servicing, but his expectation is to get Brahman. So is that good or no?
Good. I'm not going to comment. I want to hear all the feedback first. Okay, anybody else? So everybody's got Mataji's point, right?
Yeah.
So the service is meant for a goal, as Prabhu says, and the goal is a transcendental goal, but it is still an expectation. Okay, anybody else who's not spoken so far? I know there are other people. What about others? We've got Venkateshwar Prabhu, Sachimata, Revati Mataji, Sumit Prabhu, Ratnaleka Mataji. So the question is whether transcendental expectation is good for our spiritual progress or not.
I think it's good, Prabhu,
It's good?
because then you will be enthusiastic. You'll be motivated to be enthusiastic. This is what I feel.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, it is good. You're working towards to reach your goal.
Now I'm confused, Prabhuji, between transcendental and normal expectation.
Yes, and
Yeah.
personal and Krishna's expectation. Yeah.
Well, that was the whole idea.
Yes, confused now.
Get us
Personal
confused.
expectation or for Krishna's pleasure.
Okay. Anybody else would like to add before we?
I think it's
I
good
am-
also, Prabhu, because we are doing it for Krishna, we are elevating ourselves. End of the day,
Yes.
it's pleasure Krishna, to please him. Doesn't matter how you do it, but if you are thinking of him and you want to do it only for him, and that's your goal, I think it's good.
Okay.
So,
Who else?
Prabhu, can I add some
Yes,
comments?
yes, tell me.
Yeah. If I expect for myself, for my sense gratification, prasadam is there or not, and I will be honored, that is bad. But for Krishna's pleasure, yeah, I can cook for the Krishna. I have to take the Brahman initiation. That is good.
Right. So it is a
Even-
bit subjective to what your
How you go
consciousness
about
while
Yes.
doing that service, although
Yes.
it may seem transcendental. Yeah, that's
And
another aspect. Yeah.
Prabhuji, even if you want to take prasadam, it is for Krishna's pleasure. You are taking prasadam. It's not personal thing. When you are thinking of transcendental, it is just you want Prabhupada's you want prasadam. That's it. And that prasadam is not for yourself. It's just to
Get the bliss.
satisfy and that cleans your anarthas, I would say.
No,
Yeah.
but
Krishna
But
is
that-
pleased, but I'm benefited.
but no, Prabhu, but time is there. So time limit is there, 2:30 to 3:30. The prasad will be distributed. If you are coming 4 o'clock and you are expecting the prasad, so it is bad.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, I see the angle that you're coming from. Yeah, absolutely.
But if Krishna willing, you will get
Yes.
afternoon prasadam.
Yes.
You'll get a fruit offering done. So you'll get a fruits, but you'll
Yes.
get something. Krishna
Something,
never.
yeah.
This is Malti Mataji's assurance. Doesn't matter when you go, you will get.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not me, it's Krishna. And they will never stop. You'll get something, some bits you will get, definitely. That
Some-
Radha Gidari does.
Yes.
So-
Anagalata Mataji.
some sort
Radha-
of expectation is good. Like if you're expecting that Krishna is reciprocating to us through devotees or some sort of loving exchanges we have among devotees or association, those sort of expectation is good. But if we get sad about it and depressed, so I don't know how that is then good if that doesn't motivate those expectations.
Okay. So if everybody is mentioned, I just want to ask one question which may illuminate this point a bit. Why do we engage in bhakti? What is the purpose of bhakti?
To satisfy the Lord.
To satisfy the Lord,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Because we know it is our response. I mean, our constitutional position. So we have to do that. This is our responsibility to do that.
serve the Lord.
And
Right.
And the aim is to satisfy the Lord.
Correct. So when we start engaging in the bhakti process, how many of us do it with the intent of pleasing Krishna? And how many of us do it because it is good for my spiritual progress? Be honest.
It's good for our spiritual progress, Prabhu, because it gives happiness to us in the first place.
That's
not
exactly that's
pure.
exactly the point. Now,
Yes.
Yeah,
one might
because we are not
one-
pure now.
one might argue that there is a very fine line between pleasing Krishna and engaging in bhakti for my spiritual progress. There is a fine line. It is not exactly the same, although it appears very overlapping and similar. Like if you do one, you'll automatically do the other.
the reciprocal action is there.
Yes. So the point is this. In this material world, we are always trying to satisfy our senses. That is what we are taught. That is the whole purpose of dharma, artha, kama, and also moksha. Moksha is not that I want to liberate others. Moksha is I want to liberate myself. It has nothing to do with welfare activity. It is about me. So when we engage in this, in a normal day-to-day life, it's all about artha and kama. Right? Average people, they are only interested in artha and kama. So from there, the next level up is artha, kama, and dharma.
No.
Then the next level up is artha, kama, dharma, and also moksha.
Moksha.
It is higher than artha and kama. Correct?
Yes.
But then even if you do dharma, artha, kama, moksha, it's only you. So then when, as Prabhupada says, after moksha, the level of moksha, you come to the stage of bhakti. Now, when you come to bhakti, everything changes. The whole consciousness becomes upside down. Now, even for moksha, you're not doing it for yourself. You are doing it for, or you are supposed to do it for Krishna. But there is a catch. What is that catch? So far you've been doing everything for yourself. Now you have to do something for somebody whom you cannot see, whom you cannot serve directly, whom you can only hear about, but you can't have a reciprocal relationship straight away. So how will you come to that stage? Like if supposing you go to a new person and say, no more sense gratification. Now only Rishikena Rishikesha, you should only serve Krishna's senses. This person will stare at you and think you're some mad person or what. How can I serve the senses of this statue in the temple or a photograph in your house? Are you mad? I mean, true or no? Somebody will ask that question. So there is a process from only serving your senses to serving Krishna's senses. You cannot just jump. So there is an intermediate part.
Guru.
What is that intermediate part? Because we have expectations about material things. That is a conditioned existence. So the expectation has to be changed. Just like our desires have to be changed. Bhakti is what? It is changing our desire. So far, we desire only kama and moksha and dharma, artha and kama. As I just mentioned. So when the desire comes to the point where I'm thinking not just about me, but I mean me from a material context, let me think about me from a spiritual context. Right? So I was eating food, I love food, I eat food, great. But now I'm told you should not just eat just food like that, although I'm a vegetarian. Now I'm told you should eat prasad. For me, will the cooking change? Will the ingredients change?
No.
Will my plates change? Nothing will change.
No, nothing.
What will change? My desire and my consciousness will change. Now, I will just add one process. After I cook, I offer.
Yeah.
Then I eat. So, it is about raising your level of desire from material to transcendental.
Me to Krishna.
Exactly. So it is an intermediate stage where it is healthy for you to stop any material expectation and have transcendental expectation. Intermediate, but that is not ultimate. But when you have transcendental expectation, what happens? Sometimes even the transcendental expectation, it meets with frustration. True or no?
Yeah.
You cannot have 100% strike rate.
No.
Just like in the material world, when you have material expectation, sometimes it is fulfilled, sometimes it is not fulfilled. You say, okay, now it's transcendental expectation. Sometimes you may get prasad, full plate. Sometimes you might get chappan. Sometimes you might get 2 grapes. Are you satisfied to be happy and blissful with 2 grapes? Then you have made it.
And if you are hungry, if you are too hungry,
No, I'm just saying.
2 grapes is not sufficient.
Exactly. So, point is, even when we have transcendental expectation, there will be reverses in that. Are we in that Brahma Bhuta stage to accept the reverses and still feel bliss? If we are, we have nothing to worry. But the reality is, even on that platform, when we have transcendental expectation, we will get reverses, we will get frustration. Unfortunately, when we get that frustration, we think of it as a material, it becomes material. So even that we have to transcend. And we have to come to the stage where we have no expectation. So like, initially devotees say, what is your goal of bhakti? Like all of you are senior devotees, so you directly have said to please Krishna. But another answer devotees give is to go back to Godhead. I mean, it is the same as any devotee, right? Every devotee's goal is to go back to Godhead. Prabhupada even writes, go back to Godhead.
Yes.
But if you compare, if you compare, one goal is to go back to Godhead, one goal is to
Serve.
Please Krishna. Serve and please Krishna. Is it different?
No.
Because
No.
if you go back to Godhead, you will serve Krishna, right?
Yes.
It's natural.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if my goal is to serve Krishna, then will I be worried that when
Whether
I
you
go back
go
to
or
Godhead,
don't go.
Mm.
Yeah,
I can
It's
serve
default.
right now, no? So I'm in
It's
Godhead.
Yeah.
Right now I'm in Godhead because I'm serving Krishna. So for me, going back to Godhead or not, doesn't matter. It's upon Krishna. If he takes me to Godhead, it is okay. If he doesn't, it's also okay. So that is at a highest level.
Level, yeah.
Mm.
But if my goal is to only go back to Godhead, then by hook or crook, whether I serve Krishna or not, I want to go back to Godhead. So it has got a tinge of self. Whereas serving Krishna and pleasing him has got no tinge. Anya bhilashita shunyam. Shunyam. And that is determined when reverses happen in our life. If we are able to accept the reverses in our life, then we are actually connecting with Krishna. Actually, we have complete surrender and trust in Krishna. And if the reverses in our life affect us too much, I mean, it affects everybody. But if we are too overwhelmed with it, then we are only worshipping Krishna in name. We are not accepting his decisions. We are not accepting the situations he's putting us in, which means we are actually not accepting Krishna. We may be chanting, but our consciousness is not
Purified.
growing. So you see that? So material desire, transcendental desire, and material expectation, transcendental expectation, and then no expectation. It is not easy. It is not easy. But ultimately, we have to come to the point, no expectation means, I've done thing, Krishna, it is upon you.
Yeah.
Like the gopis. Gopis, did they have any expectation? When Krishna
No.
played his flute and they left everything, they left home and they went to be with him middle of the night, leaving their family members, risking the blame that they will be put into, their names will be maligned. They had nothing. Krishna's played the flute, he will be happy for me to be there. I go. Another story we know, that Krishna's headache story, everybody remembers.
Yeah, dust of the gopis.
Yeah. So Brahmanas said what? They had spiritual expectation. Oh, no. If I do this, this will happen. I'll go to hell. How can I give this? Because they had expectation. But gopis, no expectation. Krishna is happy, I can go to hell, no problem. So that is that consciousness, level of consciousness. So being here is not wrong, but it is, we have to even transcend that. Just like we say, we should come to the mode of goodness, right? So from ignorance, we should move towards passion. From passion, we should move towards goodness. But is goodness enough? No. We have to even transcend goodness. But to come to transcendence, we have to come to goodness, na?
Yes.
So to work without expectation, first of all, we should have transcendental expectation. True or no? So we do need motivation. Otherwise, we have nothing to work for. But as we expect, as we have the transcendental expectation, what happens? The purification process is working, na?
Beginning.
In association of devotees. Then slowly, it doesn't bother you. And when it doesn't bother you, that is the stage of Brahma Bhuta. We can get a glimpse. So that's why Prabhupada writes that this is the stage. It is the beginning. So if we do not have expectation, we will have satisfaction. Expectation and satisfaction will not go hand in hand. The less you think about it and you analyze yourself, in any situation when you had expectation and somehow or the other that expectation was not met 100%, you would have been dissatisfied. You would not have been satisfied. That is a test. So if we are feeling satisfied, means we have just begun. We have begun the stage where we can progress in a blissful state of mind. So that's why that association with devotees who are having no expectation or very little expectation is very important. So you see the small nuances. Now again, these things we can't discuss with new people. It is only practicing senior devotees we can have these kind of conversations. So hopefully that would have been a bit more helpful. Yes, Madhuri.
So Prabhu, that the comment that Srila Prabhupada also given, chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. This is the beginning.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Just like Prabhupada said, what? When the hippies came, what he used to do? He used to open the jar of ISKCON bullets and he used to say, have, tongue, 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 tongue. They say more. Prabhupada say more. But then when they come to the temple, shave up, wear shikha, and they say, Prabhupada, can I have 10 gulab jamuns? What Prabhupada would say?
No.
Take 20. No. Hey, only 1, 2, bus. Come.
Yes.
Ekadashi, no problem. New people, feast. 10 items. After you start practicing and you become serious devotee, hey, only fruits.
Yes. True.
Otherwise, how will we make progress? Correct. So if we are still having expectation, we are still in the KG class. It is not bad, but we are in the KG class. Right? It gives a good perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So the next 2 verses are very, very important verses. Actually, in each of these 2 verses, we can spend a whole class. But let's see. Very important. Very, very important. Nayad vachas chitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragrinita karhit tadvayasam tirtham ushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantu shikshayah.
Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
I love this example that he gives.
Beautiful.
Pilgrimage for crows. Yeah. Vayasam Tirtham. It's a Tirtha for Vyasa, which is not Vyasa, Vyasa, which is crow. So which is a place where crows meet? Like pilgrimage, what? When pilgrims meet, that place becomes a place of pilgrimage, right? When pilgrims meet. So pilgrimage for crows means where crows meet. And where do crows meet?
Garbage.
They have their conference there. Their daily conference, their hourly conference is in the garbage bin. So that is where you find all the crows. Now, the swans, will they go to the garbage?
No.
Is it accessible to them? Will it go to the garbage? No. So just like many of us would have been attracted to meat eating or liquor at one point in our life, at least some. We are attracted. As soon as we get the smell, we're like, can I have? We're attracted to it, right? Now, after purifying our existence and completely shutting it from our life, it is not that we can shut out the smell from our life, right? Because when we go to people outside, malls, whatever it is, we still get that smell that we got many years back. But now what happens?
You close your nose.
When we get that smell, we just cover our nose and run away from there. Oh my God. We can't even forget at being attracted. We can't even stand there. Right? So this is the transcendental process that has converted crows to swans. Right? But once we come to that level, I mean, a swan, will never ever go to the bin of garbage. So here that example is very important, and here he writes that anything that does not glorify the Lord is considered a pilgrimage of crows, means it is garbage. Garbage. Garbage means what? Garbage also has its so-called, I won't say use, but it has got its place. So it is, you cannot have a world that has no garbage. What is garbage?
The waste,
Throw out.
throws.
Useless, unnecessary
Waste.
things that are there.
Mm.
If you think about it, we also have, we all of us have some garbage in our own houses as well.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about food garbage. I'm talking about general garbage. If you go with the definition of garbage, anything that is useless and unutilized
Mm.
for us, that thing may be good, but we don't have a utility for it now and in the near future. So what happens? That garbage goes and sits into our garage.
Yeah, garage sale.
Garage sale. And we don't even want to give a garage sale. Why? What if after 1 year I need it?
Mm.
Yeah. So that's why we don't even give garage sale. It's mine. So everywhere, all around us, ultimately there is garbage. And so constantly we have to engage, just like we are purifying our own selves by the regular chanting process. We also have to ensure that our environment remains clean. There's no garbage. And if garbage accumulates, we have to take action as soon as possible and clear that up. Because if there is garbage, who is going to come there?
Crows.
Yes.
Crows.
Swans will not come. So that is another important aspect, that if we want to be in the association of swans, then we have to create an environment which will attract swans. So here, Prabhupada writes that these fruitive workers or passionate men are compared to crows. Why? Because they are just doing artha kama, artha kama, artha kama, which is useless. Which is useless even in this life. Forget from an ultimate perspective. Whereas the all perfect saintly persons are compared to swans. So their whole consciousness is different. They belong to the same species of so-called birds, but their consciousness is completely different. And that is also one of the comparisons one can make between a practicing devotee who is following the process of bhakti and a person who's not. They belong to the same human being species, but their consciousness is completely different. Another example given is that of a bee and a fly. Prabhupada writes that the bee is always searching for small bits of nectar from the flowers, from the fragrant flowers. Small, just tiny, little bit of nectar they find, they will extract. But the fly, what will it do? It will go and sit in places which are stinking. Stinking. Lots of stink. They will go and sit there. So they're not interested in small nectar. They're interested in big, filthy places. So same thing is the comparison here, crows and swans.
Beautiful.
So similarly, because there are crows and because there are swans, because there are different consciousness, nature, not nature, but basically there are different types of food for these two people that motivate, that stimulate, that attract this kind of consciousness. So when we see, literature that is very obscene, it will only attract people who are more focused on, desirous on karma. They just want sense gratification. So when there is something obscene, they will be attracted to it. They will talk about it. But a person who is not in that consciousness, he'll get, it's just like when we smell the face of meat, it's just useless, worthless. So, but we have to understand in this material world, there are different types of people with different conditioning, with different mentalities. And we can never classify them as one. That's why this is called the world of duality. There is good also, and there is bad also. Sometimes after taking to this process of bhakti, we become a bit ambitious and we think, I hope this world becomes a fantastic place and there is no bad. Unfortunately, we forget it is part of Krishna's creation only. And in this creation, you can never have everything good. There will always be a bad, because this is a place of duality. It will never happen. Yes, the proportion might change. Just like in Satyug, there was more good, little bad.
20% and 80%.
Yeah. In Kali Yuga, there is more bad, little good. But bad is always there. You cannot negate it completely. So people who are more attracted to these things, these things that are not transcendental, that are not for the ultimate benefit, they are not attracted to it. If we discuss it with them, will they accept it?
No.
They will not accept it. Right? So when we reach out to people, we have to understand where are they coming from? What is their level of consciousness? Not Krishna consciousness, even in a worldly consciousness, where do they belong? And based on their level, it's like diagnosing, like Narad Muni was diagnosing Ved Vyas. So we have to follow in their footsteps. Like Prabhupada also, he was diagnosing the people there, right? In the US. He knew these people are, forget talking to them about Krishna or telling them to chant. They can't even walk properly because they are so intoxicated. They cannot even, open up their eyes in noontime because all night they have been doing all kinds of nonsense things. To such people, how will you discuss these sublime matters? So he found the best way. Food. Shoot bullets. Everybody needs food. Whether you are conditioned or you're non-conditioned. Air conditioned or wind conditioned. Everybody has hunger. So the best way Prabhupada devised is to attack their stomach. Because that is a commonality. Nobody can say, no, I don't want that. So first is you attack the stomach. After the stomach, you attack the ears. And in the ears also there are two. First is you attack the ears with Harinam. So the Harinam will go inside the ears, start the purification process. And when the area becomes a little bit pure, there is some space, then push Krishna Katha. But sometimes we try to push Krishna Katha and it just doesn't even go, it hits the ears and comes out. And then we get hurt. So this is the whole idea, that we have to understand that this is how this world is made. It might not be perfect. It might not be what ideally it should be as per our expectation. But again, we have to understand it is not our expectation. It is what Krishna wants. It is what Parampara wants. It is what Prabhupada wants, Guru wants. So we are here for them. They are not here for us. Oh, mera uddhar karo, take me back to Godhead, Prabhupada, Guru. No. So this is something that we should always imbibe. So that's why any such literature that does not glorify the Supreme Lord is not appreciated even by Paramhamsas or saintly people. In fact, they consider it, Prabhupada writes here, a decoration on a dead body. Just like we know after somebody dies, they are given a bath, a full proper bath, and their fresh new clothes are put, decorated nicely, and then they are taken on their final journey. Right? So it is just like a decoration on a dead body. It has no value. Why? Because in a few moments, everything will burn. What is the value of this decoration that is going to burn in a few seconds or moments? So why spend too much time there? So all this, Prabhupada writes, social literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, politicians, they are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure. They are all dolls of material energy. How can we have any expectation from them? They are all the same. This party, that party, doesn't matter. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. This is another very strong but very important point. Prabhupada writes that they like something that is rejected. Well, like seconds. Seconds. It's been rejected by people and they pick it up. But ultimately, it's only the Paramhamsas who can assess that. If we are not having that knowledge, if we don't come to that level of discriminating, then we'll also be drawn to it. It is natural. If we didn't have this knowledge and association, we would also be one among them. Maybe a little bit higher, lower, but in that same category. So that is very important. And then this is the negative part, is if it is not describing the Lord, it becomes a pilgrimage for crows. And the next verse is just the opposite or the positive side. Let's just quickly read that, recite that. Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo yasmin pratishlokamabhaddhavatyapi kamanyanantasya yashvankitaniya shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha.
On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Hare Krishna. Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti. Who does these three things are done by? Sadhavaha. Sadhavaha. Sadhavaha, they do three things. So what is it? Shrinvanti, they hear.
Kirtan.
Yeah.
Gayanti, as soon as you hear, automatically you will say,
Glorify.
will sing the glories, or say the glories, chant the glories. And third one is
Grinanti.
Grinanti.
Accept.
So after only hearing is not good enough. Oh, I've heard Bhagavatam. Yeah, but what is the use?
Yep.
If you have heard Bhagavatam, the proof that you have heard Bhagavatam is what? You will be speaking Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
But what is the point speaking Bhagavatam?
If you are not applying in your life.
If you cannot accept it, no, application is far away. First we hear, then we say. Once we say, we actually accept. What is the proof that we've accepted? That we are following it with full sincerity. Doesn't matter what half of the world says. I have accepted it and I will follow it with 100% sincerity to the best of my ability. That is Bhagavatam. Just hearing and saying is not good. It is good, but it is not good enough. So Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti. This Grinanti is very important, but only sadhus can do it. It is not for ordinary people. So to come to the level, Prabhupada writes the word for word. He's so wonderful, Prabhupada. He writes, sadhava means what? He didn't say devotee. What has he written? Purified men who are honest. Because we should have a level of honesty to accept, or to accept the point that this is something I'm still not able to accept. I'm trying, but I'm not able to. So that level of acceptance will come with the level of purity. That's why our chanting is very important. Most important activity. And most important and most focused. The maximum focus of our spiritual day is on the chanting, and then the reading, hearing, then glorifying and accepting. So this Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti is not once a while. It is an everyday.
Regular process.
That's why Prabhupada instituted Bhagavatam class every day. Why? Not because suddenly he had a dream. Because he wanted to give us this Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti every day so that we can become sadhava. We think we are sadhava, but we are not. We are trying to become. We are following the process. The direction is correct. The process is correct, but we have to get there. So this part is very, very important. So what we'll do, this is, as I said, out of the two, this is even more important. So there are quite a few. It's a long purport, almost 2.5 pages. So what I would request is, let us all focus a little bit time at home as a homework on this verse, right? And there is just one line I want to highlight that Prabhupada writes in the translation. Please underline this. Full of transcendental words, directed towards bringing about a revolution in the life of impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Every word that I have just underlined is important. So I would like you to focus on that, read the purport, and from your perspective in this context, come up with 1 or 2 points that have touched you the most, that will help you either in a better understanding or will be instrumental in giving you some push in your own spiritual journey. Okay, just 1 or 2, not many. I mean, you might have many points. Please note all of them, but let's come up with 1 or 2 and we'll share it when we meet next time. And also next week, we have a big festival at the temple. So I think they are doing a 3-day 50th anniversary. So next week, we will not have our Ista Gosti. I think there'll be some programs happening. It's not yet finalized, but I think today or tomorrow it will be. So we'll just leave the day free, so we can either go to the temple or engage in some service if as and when required. So we will meet the following week. Yeah, so next to next Saturday. Is that right? Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
So Prabhuji, on this one,
Yes.
these two verses.
Yes.
I think if what I can recollect from my memory, that this was most of this was discussed in Upadeshamrita on the first word.
Yes.
Vacho Begam. I think
Yes.
Prabhupada is all this, just reminding that all those.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
And he has given these 2 verses also there.
Correct.
I can remember correctly.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said, I mean, this one verse, we can actually talk for 1 full class, maybe more. It's so wonderful. So now definitely, Prabhu, please make your own notes on this, on what you've got from the purport and the verse. And specifically that line in the translation is a very, very important line, and it means a lot. So if you can read between the lines and do some, Grinanti, Gayanti and Grinanti for this line, it will definitely help us, and Prabhupada will be pleased.
Prabhupada is also, I mean, I have heard in different cases, Prabhupada, the same line he has also repeated in various places also.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Godless civilization he has also.
Yes, yes. That's the reason of highlighting that, Prabhu.
Godless
Mentioned it many times.
We are having in the essay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Every word in that sentence is important. And if you miss one word, it goes, like the whole essence of that translation will be diluted.
Impious lives.
Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.